What's something you think people claim to like because they think it makes them look smart? Politics, economics, tech and computers. Everyone you encounter online is the world's most eminent expert in all of these things. To be an internet politics expert, all you need is to just be further left of Hugo Chavez and adopt a suitably hectoring and forceful tone. To be an economics expert, just drop buzz phrases like Keynesian and supply and demand. Jerome Powell wants to quit for a new life of selling ice cream on the beach. He has nominated you to replace him. But the money at Goldman Sachs is much better. I find a lot of people who are into science aren't actually into science, they just like seeing the results of science and have no desire to understand how the process itself works. Nothing wrong with that, my problem is with the subset of those people who act like some kind of authority, or treat science as some kind of sacred list of truths. Ignorance to the core about a subject they claim to care about. It's annoying, not going to lie. You know what kind of person I'm talking about most likely. Nothing, I don't think anyone does that. No one's pretending to like stuff to look smart. It's more like people feel stupid because someone else is into astronomy or whatever, so they make themselves feel better by dreaming up a backstory for the astronomy guy in which he secretly hates astronomy but puts on an act to seem smarter than he is. It's not that the person who's into cool stuff isn't smart, it's that the person who's not into the same stuff feels threatened and insecure for some reason. Traveling. A lot of people pretend to constantly travel, as if they're learning about other cultures and whatnot. In reality, they go to a resort and don't leave or stay in American hotels in touristy areas and never meet any actual people from the culture they've traveled to. But you can't tell them they don't really know anything about the world. Because if they've slept in a Best Western in South America, they believe themselves to be worldly and intelligent. I play board games, and you have those jack-offs that refuse to play anything fun and light like Sushi Go. They act like exclusively playing games that take 5 hours and a math poly-sci degree makes them better than everyone else. I too love number crunchy games that make your head explode, as well as silly games I can laugh with friends over. Our board game Circle Jerk is a great sub for making fun of guys like this. Reading books is a big one. But they secretly just check the wiki. I'm getting the impression that many folks didn't read the question properly. There seems to be a lot of confusion. What's something you think people claim to like because they think it makes them look smart? So I'm talking about people who claim to like reading books but don't actually read books, to make themselves look smart. Apple products. Linux operating systems, I like them, but not for snooty elitist reasons. Noam Chomsky, I don't like the guy, but whenever I've heard people try to reference him in a flattering manner, they sound like complete lunatics. Philosophy, your thoughts are not that deep and you're not as important as you think you are. Opera singing. This isn't to say it doesn't have merit as an art form, but a lot of people look at it as like a rite of passage to being considered distinguished or rich. You don't have to like it just be you have money or status now. You can keep listening to Megan Thee Stallion or whatever you like. Lol. Macintosh, the problems I could solve if the boss didn't insist on using these things. X200B. Edit, for example, I got an ISM2 because I need to run CAD. Thing is a beast. Can't work off the server with Apple products, no one knows why, and it's been over a year and no update has fixed it. Using longer words in general. Also using abbreviations, or the complete lack of abbreviations. Example, a fortnight ago my family and I traversed across a big and beautiful country to visit a plethora of museums, one of which was dedicated to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. No Country for Old Men. The plot sounds like it would be interesting, but the execution is just boring. I can't get through the first 10 minutes of the movie because I get so bored. How can anyone sit there and thoroughly enjoy those first few minutes long enough to stay engaged with the film? Not alike, but I hate people who claim to absolutely hate pop music and how dumb you must be to enjoy it. Then talk about how more people need to appreciate real music, which just happens to be whatever they're into. Whatever. We see you nodding along to BTS just like the rest of us. Reading, studying non-fiction topics. Most people talk too much and give themselves away at how little they actually know about the thing they're flexing about. Like you listen to podcasts one time and act like you have a PhD now. Just stop using buzzwords when talking about something they know little or nothing about. I got the blue screen of death and one of my friends told me it was because of my ISP, or could be my bandwidth. Do you even know what ISP stands for? IQ score. Basically 0 people I know IRL have ever taken a proper IQ score with a shrink-administered legit. But over 9 million people online will tell you they absolutely know there are 138. which of course makes you an idiot. Every client I've ever spoken to who's mentioned they read The Motley Fool has tried to convince me they understand investing and be immediately proved they have no idea what half of the buzzwords they're spouting even mean. More buzzwords where I worked it was bubble up, like we will bubble up that plan to the managers. Stupid, really. One mid-level manager used it at a meeting and within 5 minutes a wild bunch of us kissers did the same. I just had an interaction on Reddit with a dude who claimed to have 2 degrees and is worth millions at 27, but basically the finance guys that are dumb will always call themselves a quant or quant analyst. This guy did lol. High IQs. I've no idea what mine is and frankly, don't much care because I've been in science long enough that I can see how flawed the test and premise are. The men's and circle jerk has never held any allure for me. Philosophy. Very few people read philosophy for philosophy's sake. One semester I walked around with a Knights annotated companion in my bag. The number of people that came out of the woodwork was astounding. How about those people on LinkedIn with all the degrees certificates they have after their name? BS and Master's PhD, in XYZ and Six Sigma with over 20 years in experience, but I'm actually a fucking tool. I would have to say calculators if someone carried a calculator in public. It may have the opposite effect. I used to do so until someone gently told me it was a poor fashion choice. Microphone, woman shrugging, graduation cap, full moon with face. Wine. A friend of mine and his partner joined a wine club thinking it's classy. But since neither of them like wine very much, they now have a counter cluttered with unopened bottles. Sometimes, I think those that speak of conspiracy theories, insisting that the world is flat, may do so knowingly or not as a means to appear endowed with special knowledge. While it doesn't fall into the category of liking, I've always found that people who make an active choice not to cuss, believe they're smarter and better than those that do. Reading Dostoevsky. I don't know what it's like in Russian, but in English it's the driest shit I've ever read. Reading Crime and Punishment. He feels like you're being punished. Nothing, this isn't a thing that real people do. Just because some people like slow-paced media or studying philosophy doesn't mean they're trying to impress you. Oh, but I know enough to be dangerous. Sir, you've done this for 3 weeks. I'm danger. I'm going to go back to building your drag and drops. Classical music, opera here in my world. Those are not the norm, and people proclaiming that they listen to them during the day are met with raised eyebrows. It's an unfounded opinion because I'm uninformed and don't personally like the taste, but I feel that way about people who are into craft beers. I've said, well, I read in the New York Times that, if I want to add validity to my point. Plot twist: I don't read any newspapers. Tea. No one is impressed by the Lipton tea bag with a lot of sugar or your Earl Grey. I am impressed by ceremonial grade matcha drinkers. Reading. Lots of people talk about how much they read or books they have read, but I don't think they have picked up one at all. People look for shortcuts to being considered a connoisseur and will borrow the hip opinions about anything that involves taste. I think people should be thinking about IQ tests less and start thinking about seeing a doctor and get ADHD and spectrum tests. Anyone who says they've read the whole of Infinite Jest is a liar, and if they say they liked it, they're delusional. Chess. It is just checkers with more rules. Understanding how to play doesn't make you some deep thinker. Some people read a lot of books and don't actually get anything from them or are able to describe them. Lol. I got downvoted to filth last time I said this, but Chuck Palahniuk books. Pretentious fucking drivel. Classical literature. I know a lot of smart people, and they can't be fucked with Dickens and Poe. Reading Robert Musil's novel, The Man Without Qualities. We all tried, we all failed. Novel readers. You don't read? Are you crazy? Bitch, have you heard of an RPG? Some modern art that in reality would pass for the work of a primary school kid. Okay. Prepares. Cryptocurrency. Ducks, runs, hides behind tangible assets. Drinking tea. Every single kind of tea I've tried has tasted terrible. People who claim to like art but clearly don't understand it. Quantum physics. They forget that it's physics at its core. Physics? That shit just simple maths with some extra steps. Mid-management promotions. Fuck, I hate a new mid-manager. Movies and shows with dark, complex main characters. Shitting on the UK for stealing their country's loot. Chess. Shakespeare. Wagner. I know, I'm a peasant,